Democracy is coming to the USA.
Don't want a nation under the new media. And can you hear the sound of hysteria? The subliminal mind fuck America.
All right. Check. All right. Check. Welcome to week 79. Yeah, it's a lot of chaos, a lot of turmoil, and a lot of false information coming out every day. You know, it's really mind-blowing how terrible it is, considering, you know, that Trump has golfed 100 days or more since he's been in office. And don't forget, he criticized Obama for golfing. And you know, Obama just, you know, casually did it every now and then, I think just to get his head clear, while Trump is golfing probably weekly and having the taxpayers foot the bill. You know, and that's something that the media doesn't really mention at all. You know, I mean, it kind of comes up every now and then, but also I believe that Trump's been drinking a full case of Red Bull before he gets behind the keyboard and tweets 35 tweets this weekend. You know, mostly to discredit Mueller and also to say, you know, his typical unhinged craziness, which I actually picked a tweet out to read to you guys today. Wow, highest poll numbers in the history of the Republican Party. That includes Honest Abe and Ronald Reagan. There must be something wrong. Please recheck the poll. You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like the fact that he's a so-called president. I mean, what is this? He doesn't use facts. In fact, polls didn't exist when Abe ran the nation. So what the hell is he talking about exactly?
He's making it up, whole clock. As usual, his mouth is moving, he's lying.
Yeah, that's typical. I mean, I think he averages about 2 or 3 lies a day, if not more, maybe 10, depending on how often he drinks his Red Bull and tweets. I mean, it's just crazy. The fact is he goes in these tweet tirades at midnight, and you find them like hour by hour by hour. Does he ever sleep? I mean, it's just, and it's pointless. It's just a distraction to get people away from the actual issues, you know. And it's really just disheartening. And you know, that's why we're out here, you know, is because of his delusional, you know, disposition. Do what? Okay. Nice. All right, anyway, got some breaking news, new satellite images showing that North Korea not only is continuing production of ballistic missiles, they're building new sites that could possibly also build those missiles. So, you know, last week there was a report that came out that North Korea was dismantling some of these sites, but yet they're dismantling them. Why are they building them again? You know, it's just another aspect of, how can I put this, distortion.
I don't know, I didn't fact check it, but one of the articles I ran across about North Korea and the site they were dismantling was basically at the end of its life. It was no good anymore anyway, so they were going to take it down regardless. It was useless. So, you know, we accomplished nothing. Go Trump.
a lot like Helsinki. I mean, that accomplished absolutely nothing, and yet Trump is tweeting about how great his meeting was with. Well, we would all like to know how great it is because we would love to know exactly what was said. It would be really nice. Did he say, "How do I collude this time, Pooty? How do I get my election? You know, how do I control the House and the Senate? Come on, Pooty, you gotta hack. Keep hacking." Hey, Pooty. I mean, it's absurd, you know, it really is. We have a secret KGB operative that is running our country right now, giving away probably secrets to Russia. You know, I mean, it's just, it seems pretty obvious at this point. Another thing that I find that is funny is the fact that, you know, he actually said that collusion was legal. I believe that was former Mayor Giuliani. And he went on national television and actually leaked out a meeting that that they had that wasn't on the record. And then also, not only that, but Rudy Giuliani, not even asked if Trump was in the meetings, said, by the way, Trump didn't attend these meetings. So it's just one lie after another, but maybe Rudy Giuliani is actually, you know, secretly a part of the resistance and, you know, praising, you know, Trump behind the scenes after he makes a mistake and accidentally leaks something out. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I love you, Trump." Oh, God. You know, it's a real sign of a dictator when, you know, you have to love him in order to get, you know, some type of admiration. But moving on, apparently the Trump administration wants to give $100 billion in tax cuts to the super wealthy. Apparently, he doesn't think that he needs to go through Congress to pass this tax cut. This is a message to the super wealthy that, you know, he's making up for the tariffs. So this just came out today, and a lot of people are probably not familiar with that, but do you have anything to add?
It was the Secretary of Treasurer, I think, what's his name, Mnuchin. He said maybe they could get it through without having to go to Congress. And it has to do with capital gains. So rich people will get more money back. And meanwhile, they keep yapping about cutting Medicare, Social Security, and other human social programs. That's it.
Oh, and then we have, I think, Zinke is something that's important to mention because apparently there was a unredacted interior documents that shows Zinke's monuments review was a sham, and basically that, these documents were concealed from the public that emphasized the value of protecting Utah's Grand Staircase and Bear Ears National Monument. Then apparently they slashed 2 million acres from them. And basically what this all boils down to is that they're going after public lands in order to mine, log, and also for fossil fuels and livestock interests. That's what it really boils down to, is resources that they want to extract from protected lands. Lands that are protected from vandals are no longer being protected, and this is across the board from, you know, Maine all the way to Colorado to Utah, even California. You know, these monuments are very important to us in terms of many different aspects of the environment, including endangered species. So it's just another sham that these guys are pulling on the American people, and it's just amazing that his supporters can, you know, sit back and be behind that. You know, because he's dismantling America in every single facet that you possibly can. And that's the least American thing that you could possibly do.
Well, the thing about dismantling the monuments is this is going to have a bad effect on the local communities' economies. I grew up right next to Yosemite, and the communities depend on tourist dollars. You take away these beautiful natural features, you lose the tourists, you lose all the tourist dollars. It's really not a good thing to do to his own base.
Not to mention climate change, and our whole state is burning up. Places are flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes. But hey, is climate change real? They don't see that somehow.
Speaking of that, with the fires that are happening across California, they're so bad that they are creating their own weather cycles, and we have things such as fire tornadoes. And thousands and thousands of people are being evacuated from Northern California all the way down to Southern California. And I think that we should probably take a moment of silence for these people who are deeply impacted by these fires that are an absolute environmental disaster. So we'll take about a minute of silence right now. So it's just one disaster after another, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we've already been through this last year with hurricanes that just decimated places like Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. They hit Florida pretty hard. They hit Texas pretty hard. The fact is, we're not acknowledging Puerto Rico at all. There's still 60,000 people with tarp roofs that are only supposed to last about a week or two. And they've made them last for about 10 months. And the hurricane season is going to hit possibly hard. You know, and it's just another indication of what climate change is doing to us as a world. I just don't see how you can deny climate change by saying, oh, there's snow in the hills, so therefore climate change doesn't exist. It's mind-blowing.
I'm really having a hard time with the fires. Being a Forest Service brat, you all know that. It's just scaring me out of my wits, and I don't even want to talk about that. But I did get one piece of good climate news today. The Trump administration had asked the Supreme Court to block the Climate Kids lawsuit. This is the group of young people who are suing the federal government because climate change is affecting their future. Well, the Supreme Court ruled yesterday, and they refused to block the case. It is proceeding. Go Climate Kids.
Yeah, I actually made it to the Ninth Circuit when they actually made their case, and it was a very powerful, monumental experience because, you know, these kids were suing the government for their future, in the simple fact that it's going to destroy their future if we destroy the environment, because it's going to lessen their, basically their chances in life. Because the environment won't be functioning correctly, many things will be disrupted by the time these kids reach 20, 25.
And now Trump wants to get rid of the Ninth Court of Appeals. Yes. Today, yeah.
Of course he wants to get rid of the Ninth Circuit because the Ninth Circuit is actually a voice for the people, minus a few rulings that they've had recently. They actually do a pretty good job. So he's going to do anything that he can to censor the voices that are speaking the truth. I didn't exactly like some legislation that they passed where apparently you can't, and don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor of owning a gun at all, but the fact is they passed a law where if you have a medical marijuana card, that you can no longer own a gun. I find that to be a little bit bizarre. Again, I'm in favor of the most strict gun legislation possible because of all the violence that has happened over the past few years. I remember Columbine, in fact, and I was young, and I believe that this was, one of the first mass shootings that made such major, hits. And I remember as a kid thinking to myself, man, they should not broadcast this so heavily on television because we're going to see copycats. And sure enough, for 20 years, we've been seeing, or actually 21 years, we've been seeing mass school shootings. And that's the big part of the reason why I believe that we need to have more protections on guns, not less protections.
One of the things I'm going to share with Feinstein's aide is that the U.S. State Department is considering allowing a company to post its gun blueprints online. This decision would allow anyone, including terrorists, convicted felons, and domestic abusers, to download plans to print functional, untraceable guns out of plastic, and all they would need is a 3D printer. Plus, many of these guns would be undetected by metal detectors, putting our planes, our music festivals, and our government buildings in danger. Everyone needs to either call or write Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and urge him to reverse this absurd decision. And also call your senators. I mean, that is the most disastrous idea I've ever heard of.
I actually saw something about that a couple of days ago, and actually I've been seeing the possibility of this happening over the past month. The fact that people can print out guns, they're undetectable. I believe that's absolutely wrong. And the blueprint is out for these guns, right? And has this already been passed in?
What I heard was that the decision could be blocked up until tomorrow, August 1st. So it's now or never.
So I believe that. Go.
So you can see where all this is coming from. This is straight up the NRA because they want a world in the United States that's like the old Wild West, where if we all are threatened by guns, then we all need guns, and guns are everywhere. It's all marketing and money, and it's just so disgusting that companies can be so evil that they'll put profit ahead of people's lives, and that's the arms industry and the guns industry and the military-industrial complex. It's just beyond belief. But it's a reason also why we need to take control of our government, take back and really have democracy, and kick all these pirate creeps out of our country.
That's why we need to amend the Constitution. And what is it, the 28th?
We need a 28th Amendment that says that corporations are not people, money's not speech, and that's exactly what House Joint Resolution 48 says.
Speaking of corporations are not people, and what money is not speech, the Koch brothers, of all people, are railing against Trump right now. And there's actually a Twitter war between the Koch brothers and Trump administration. Well, not administration, just Trump. He would like to be just him, and that's it. And anyway, apparently the Koch brothers, not that I'm in favor of them at all, apparently they want to fund now the opposition, which is the Democrats, which I think is it's good and it's bad, because then they can also influence liberal politics more if they do start to throw their money at Democrats.
So a second ago you mentioned how we need to get the money out of politics and basically take back our government with House Joint Resolution 48. So I work with MoveToAmend.org. Well, 2 days ago I got to meet with Congressman Eric Swalwell's staff in Hayward. We put together a really great delegation of folks that met with him, and it was really neat because they gave us a full hour, And the staffer that we met with was raised in the Bay Area, educated in Orange County, and she actually wrote one of her big papers on Citizens United and corporate constitutional rights. And she put right in her paper, her whole premise was that we've virtually never had democracy in this country because it's always been rigged, and it's been rigged through things like Citizens United ever since the beginning. And when she turned it in, her professor wasn't very happy with her, but he couldn't deny her arguments. So pretty awesome. And that's the kind of staffer you want to make a presentation to. It was great. So the next step is she's contacting the staffer in Washington, D.C. that I spoke with when you guys sent me down there, and they're going to work together on a joint report, West Coast, East Coast offices, to ask Eric Swalwell to endorse House Joint Resolution 48.
I think that this amendment's highly important because it actually will, change, the function of government in the direction of the people, by the people, which is what democracy should be about, and that's what it should have been about, but unfortunately it has been hijacked by Citizens United, and a lot of folks don't even know what Citizens United is, I actually volunteered with Lawrence during the Bring Families Together rally, and I spoke with a lot of people, and they actually wanted me to explain to them what Citizen United was, and I was like, wow, you guys don't know what Citizen United is, and you're here at this rally. Awesome that you're here, but it's just kind of mind-blowing that sort of seeped through the cracks and of public discourse, So anyway, moving on. This is not related to, the corporate hood of America. This is more related to the children being separated from their families. And by the way, me and Lawrence met with Feinstein staff, and they actually went down to San Diego and noticed the deplorable conditions that these children are living in. And they said that they only served them one kind of food 3 times a day, and it was a bean burrito, and that their living conditions were absolutely terrible. I'm not sure exactly what the specifics were from the meeting on that point. Do you remember exactly what they said in terms of those conditions? And no, okay. But regardless, it's it's just telling you. It's telling. In terms of what this administration is doing with fascist types of moves and testing public opinion on this particular issue. First people are sort of like, yeah, this is terrible, and then people get used to it, and then they settle with it, and it just continues to happen, and people think, oh, everything's okay, but children are being locked in cages to this day. And this has been something that's been happening for the past 3 months. And, I think that the family separation was a little bit different under the Obama administration. The Republicans always like to bring that up as a talking point. Of course, it was a failed talking point because the truth is that Obama never intentionally separated families from their kids in order to just punish them. It was more of a way to protect them, because oftentimes it was family members who were already deported, or it was an abusive scenario, unaccompanied minors that just showed up at the border, and they put them in a place of protection in hopes that they can reunite them with their families. That's what they did. Now, with the Trump administration, on the other hand, they have done the opposite. And Trump likes to congratulate himself on how good of a job he's doing to reunite these children with the families, which is absolutely disastrous to me, because this was a problem he created, and he wants to congratulate himself for a good job that he did by bringing them back to their families, which he didn't do that. There's still 711 children that are separate from their families, and of that 711, I believe that 400 of those children's families have already been deported. And, the judge actually commented on this and said that is an absolute must to bring these children back to their families, to reunite them. And I can't believe that this particular topic is sort of floating out of the media cycle when it should be continuously at the top. Because it's absolutely a humanitarian crisis to me that children of all people, the most vulnerable people in this world, are being basically tortured. And can you imagine what the psychological implications of that are? I mean, it's absolutely disastrous. It's going to cause these children to have to grow up too fast, and therefore they're not going to have a childhood. It's basically ripping away something that is, has so much potential. It's taking away from that. Would you guys like to add anything?
Well, one apocryphal story I heard was that a 4-year-old tried to seek asylum with the grandmother, and the grandmother was considered, this was one of the ones who was ineligible to be reunited with the family because it was the grandmother, not a parent. That's it. That's it. Ineligible because it wasn't a parent, it was the grandmother.
I think that's the word they're using to cover a lot of the kids that haven't been reunited. They just say they're ineligible. And a lot of those people, their parents have already been deported. The kids are who knows where. I mean, it really is disgusting. And now Trump is yapping on about shutting down the government unless he gets his damn wall and all the other money he's asking for to do more of this awful treatment of people. It's really unbelievable.
Let him shut the government down and let him give those tax breaks to the wealthiest of the wealthy, because here's what that is going to do. That's going to keep the Republicans from dominating the House and the Senate. Luckily, we only have 98 days left until the election in November, and if Trump gets by with a shutdown of the government, there's going to be a major outcry. And I believe that this will actually push for a more liberal Congress and Senate. And we need that. We need that because this will actually, be the medicine that we need to impeach this motherfucker. And I don't cuss a lot, but I don't want to call Trump a president. He's simply a motherfucker. He is a low-life piece of shit. Sorry, I'm done with my, vulgar tirade. But, I think Michael is better. Unfortunately, he's not here in terms of going on these tirades. Yeah, I can only, it actually, one of the reasons why I can't use too much vulgarity is because if my mother happens to see it, I feel like she might be a little bit disappointed that I'm using language like this, so. So we'll leave it to Michael, yes.
My concern about impeachment is then we would have Pence, who is a snake in the grass and seems very reasonable. And I think a lot of people might fall for that. In fact, one of my friends who, is 92, and she's thinking Pence looks pretty reasonable, and she's a very liberal person, and I just couldn't even believe that she thought he would be okay.
I think anybody looks reasonable next to Trump. Anybody. And as much as I also dislike Pence, and I'm not saying that Pence will be, a great president at all, but I believe that Pence will not try to be a dictator, and I also believe that the resistance will still be there to meet him, and that we will continuously push back against him, and we will have, hopefully, a Democrat Senate and Congress that can veto his ass if he does anything. He does have a history in terms of what he did with the LGBTQ community in Indiana that people do not forget and will not forget. And people will be reminded once Trump is impeached that Pence is not much better, and that the pushback, I think, will continue. At least I hope.
Pence may even be worse for women's rights, unfortunately. I think we just have to get them all and clean out the mess. Pence was very involved in the Russia thing, too. I suspect Mueller's going to have a fair amount on him. And I hope that they both go at the same time, even though that would leave us with whoever the Speaker of the House is. That's why we need a blue wave in November. Just remember, D for democracy, R for Russia.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And also, don't forget to make America great again 2020. No, I mean, but the thing is that was more in relation to what I think Trump was saying about comparing himself to Lincoln and his poll numbers. The fact is that Lincoln didn't have poll numbers, which is irony right there. So anyway, I think I just killed that joke. But, you know, there's so many things. Are we meeting with staff today?
I think they're in the fire because they're not even answering my email that I send out every time. So I think they have called away to the fire stuff. That's like, they always get called on this fire.
Well, it's important that they are there for the fires, and you know, it's nice that they come down and they're able to talk with us and reiterate the things that we say back to, you know, Feinstein. And by the way, I think that Feinstein is doing a good job right now. I think that she is trying her best to get the information out on Kavanaugh, which this leads me to something that our friend here has written from Dianne Feinstein. I believe it's a tweet.
I'm not sure what the source of the quote was, but it was attributed to Senator Feinstein and regarding Brett Kavanaugh's nomination for Supreme Court. The Presidential Records Act makes clear that White House records, including Brett Kavanaugh's, belong to the American people. Now the National Archives is refusing to provide those records to Democrats so we can vet his nomination. This has never happened. Thank you, Senator Feinstein.
All right. Yeah, right on. And, you know, it never has been before that these guys have tried to squash real information from coming out. This is the first time, as she said earlier. And something that Indivisible said to, you know, I guess the senator's office last week was that we want to thank the senator for her vigorous response to the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we support her proposal to request viewed documents from Kavanaugh's year in the Bush-Cheney administration. We also appreciate the senator's hiring of Mark Harrison from Morrison and Forsters to vet Kavanaugh's records. We're sure his work will provide a value. And I think that, you know, something else is that, you know, Indivisible is doing such a great job in terms of countering all this craziness that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And they're going to be a big part of the groundswell, the push to get the blue wave to come. And, you know, at this point, to me, it's not about being Republican or Democrat or liberal or progressive or conservative. It's about being an American. And American values daily are being crushed. Daily, minorities are being attacked by racist groups who feel emboldened to basically act out. Daily, you know, minorities are getting the police call on them for nothing. I mean, it's one extreme after another, folks. And America really does need to wake up. You know, and we need to all come together and realize that we are all human, regardless of what race, ethnicity, you know, sexuality, whatever it is that it may be. We're all human at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if we agree or disagree. And I believe that, you know, that the Democrats just happen to be on the right side of history right now, and the Republicans are on the wrong side of the history, and they're spineless for not pushing the envelope to impeach Trump. Even though they're a little bit riled up right now, and they're a little bit, you know, dissatisfied with the plummet. It's it's still just it's a walking disaster, and it's a real sham on our democracy. So.
I would like to just shout out in memory of Ron Dellums, who just died, and talk about a real hero for democracy and for our country. A social worker, too. I like that part.
Oh, I almost brought it. I got a copy of Barbara Lee's statement about Ron Dellums passing, and it was really beautiful. He was her mentor, and she's my Congress critter, so I get to hear these things. But yeah, we lost a giant.
Well, and it's fitting that Barbara Lee at least took his place, because Barbara Lee is basically continuing his fight. And, I'm sure that, well, I know that Barbara Lee felt honored, or feels honored to be in that position. And I actually worked for Barbara Lee for a short time, and the way that she treated me was just amazing. She always looked for me and asked for me when I was working for a despicable consultant who was toying with me, and Barbara Lee actually always requested me to work on her campaigns. So, she's amazing. She's a voice for the marginalized. She's a voice for the people, and I really appreciate her service to this country, and I'm glad that she's been there as long as she has been. I think it's been 20 years or more of service, right? Do you have anything you'd like to say? No? You're just hanging out?
Trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, what's going on is a lot of madness. It's a lot of misinformation, a lot of delusions of grandeur. We have a man in the White House who thinks he's a president, and he's really just a bully. He's a farce. He's a fake. He's a phony. It's just a matter of time before he is impeached. And I just hope that, it's sooner than later. Do you have anything you want to add to that? No? All right, right on. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, we come out here every Tuesday to defend democracy. And none of us are fully on the same political page, but we all understand our position as being a part of this democracy, and how we have to continue to stand up and fight against the madness that ensues our nation right now.
This is Senator Feinstein's office in San Francisco. This is why we're here. And usually Senator Feinstein has someone from her office come down and meet with us for a little while, but they're not available this week. But most weeks we get to talk to somebody from her office.
I just think it's a beautiful thing ever to get to speak freely in a democratic way, in any way we so choose, without resistance, to express resistance.
Right on. Thank you.
I want to know why we sit here and talk about this stuff, right? When the prices that run the whole city, the bill drugs into our land. How are you going to sit here and protest and talk about Trump and Obama's the one left the border open, right? And now you've got 100,000 people. Well, last time, right?
Just get out and vote. That's my word. Vote. For God's sake, vote, vote, vote. Vote early and vote often. That's a joke.
When we talk about open borders, when we talk about Mexico, and we can talk about North America in general, and Mexico actually owned a big portion of America, and they were more native to this land than we are, than most people who are Caucasian. We're not native to this land, but Latinos, Mexicans, they are. And when we talk about this whole war with the borders and all that nonsense, it's bullshit, really. It's just a distraction. It's just another wave of misinformation that continues to seep through our dialogue every day.
I will say one thing. We're all native to the world, and we're all native to the universe, brother. Hoorah.
Well said. Agreed. I agree with you. That's awesome.
Take care.
We are all native to this universe and to this land, and that's why we should all, be accepting of each other and appreciate others each other's existence. Unfortunately, Trump kind of took hold of racism and bigotry and utilized it as a way to, confuse and also disseminate basically racism. He has given the key to that disease that was once kind of hidden. And now these people feel like they can come out from underneath the rock that they were hiding under, and they can be openly bigoted and openly pieces of shit. And that's the only kind of person and the only kind of ideology that I strongly oppose besides war. I think hatred of any kind is unacceptable, and intolerance is absolutely, unacceptable as well. It's intolerable, yeah, absolutely. It's the best way to say it. So I think if anybody else has anything to say, then I think that's it. All right. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on.